Got the recording, Joe.
All right. All right. The meeting has started. So welcome, everybody. I'm glad to see everybody. Everybody should have got the notice there, but this is the official warning that I'll give you on top of this, that this meeting is being recorded. So everything you say will go down. And so be careful what you say. What we do at the end of the meeting, normal practice, is that we will post this to our website and our YouTube channel. And so other people that can attend that want to see the meeting later can see it. But I just want to make sure that everybody has a proper warning that you are being recorded. And with that, I am going to I'll call roll. So just let me know if you're here or not. So let's start with Margaret. Okay, I see your hand. You're here. Corla?
Present.
Mandy?
Here.
Don?
Here.
Robert?
Here.
Angela?
Here.
Nicole?
Here.
Tina? No,
Tina, she was here. I let her in, but I don't see her now.
All right, we'll see if she comes back. Matt?
Present.
Hey, it's good to see you, although I can't see your face, but I'm glad you're here, pal.
And here comes Sam.
All right, Joe?
I'm here.
Paul Webb?
Here.
Javier?
Here.
Brad?
He's
Brad,
there.
you there? I can see you.
He looks frozen.
He looks frozen. So Brad, I can see you, so I'm going to count you as here, but you do seem to be frozen. And then Sam, I skipped over Sam because he said he was coming in. Sam, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So we got 14 then. 14. And Matt, I can see you now. Perfect. All right. So with that, then the first order of business is to approve the agenda. Everybody's seen the agenda. I've circulated. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Margaret approves.
All right. A second.
Second, Sam.
Okay. Do we have any questions or comments? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate. It appears. And Don, I'll call on you. Yes.
Don.
Okay. Yep. Okay. All right. The agenda is approved unanimously. And then the next thing is that we need a motion to approve the meeting by Zoom. I continue to call it this way. I still think that we are not out of the woods, and it's still in the interest of public safety for us to meet via Zoom. So, and as I've indicated, I can get it. Our meeting in November will also be by Zoom, and I'll reevaluate as we get into the next year. So, do I have a motion to approve us meeting by Zoom? Robert, second by Joe. All those in favor? Don?
Don.
All right. And Tina, I just took roll and I see that you're here, so I'm going to mark you down as present. Good to see you. All right. All right. Mandy, we have minutes from September to be approved. You want to?
Yes. And I believe I answered your question, Joe, about that property. I believe that was pulled from the last month's agenda. Am I correct with that?
No, it was my mistake, Mandy. You were sending out last month's meeting minutes, and I just clicked on them thinking they were this month's agenda. So I had a little brain freeze there. Corla called me and we got it straightened out.
Oh, good, good. All right. Well, I'm glad that worked out. So
Yeah,
I have a motion.
Well.
Oh, awesome. Well, I have a motion to approve the minutes.
From September.
From September.
Do I got a second?
I'll second.
Corla? Okay. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Don.
Aye.
All right, that passes unanimously. Perfect. All right, we will go with board reports, and we'll start with me as president. And I think that the planning board is doing very well. You're very active out there, all of you in the Point Loma community. Appreciate all of you stepping up and making a difference. And I appreciate all of the board members, Margaret, Corla, and all the others that send information around about what's happening in the community. It's happening in Midway, Ocean Beach, and other communities that we care about. So I really, really appreciate all that. I did want to make one notice. I sent around yesterday this notice that I got from the city about the new opportunity funding policy related to parks. And I guess I'd ask Mandy to think about it since you're the chair of the Parks and Recreation Department. I read it more carefully today, and they asked different stakeholders, including planning boards, to weigh in on what they think of it. So before we did weigh in on it, we would have to go to the Park and Rec subcommittee. So I'll ask you to at least take a look at it and consider whether you want to try to weigh in on it. My personal concern is that it appears that the city's policy is going to start charging fees for using recreational park facilities. And so that certainly seems like it's potentially going to adversely affect people in Point Loma. And I worry about groups that we care about, like the Sunset Cliffs National Park, right? I think that they meet at the Carrillo Rec Center. And so as far as from my reading of this new policy, they probably are going to have to start paying a fee to meet there. And I'm not sure that that's good for the Sunset Cliffs National Park Committee. And I hate to see things done that would, disadvantage, everything we're trying to do to keep the park and Sunset Cliffs protected. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. And the other thing I want to get on the record, because we won't meet until after this, but in the thing that I sent you, that there is going to be a District 2 meeting at 6 p.m. at the Ocean Beach Rec Center on November 9, 2022. And so for people that are interested about this new Opportunity Fund park policy in the community, that's the time to show up and give your 2 cents. So with that, that's sort of my report. Any questions? Don, I can see you now.
Okay, I do have a comment, Fred. What I take of that advisory or whatever is that money will be funneled to neighborhoods of concern. And in the Park and Rec eyes, we are not a neighborhood of concern. Something that alarmed me as well is that they did approach groups that might be affected, like Little Leagues and so forth. The city has recreation advisory groups, and I am a member of a recreation advisory group and the city is not seeing fit to notify members of the recreation advisory groups of this change. And I found that somewhat alarming.
Okay, well, another reason to refer it to to Mandy and the rec committee. I got Nicole and then Margaret.
I was just hoping you could forward that info about that meeting coming up in an email or in an email, preferably.
Okay.
Thank you.
I sent an email yesterday afternoon. If you didn't get it, I'll send it to you again.
No, I might have missed it. Thank you. I'll look.
Look for mid-afternoon yesterday. There's a whole series of things, including the notice.
Great, thanks.
Margaret?
I got disconnected, so I'm not sure if you're still on your chair report.
I am still on my chair report.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
I'm just taking questions right now.
Okay, awesome.
I can go to first vice chair whenever you're ready.
No. Take your questions. I just got the boots. I didn't know where we were.
Okay, well, I think I'm out of questions, so you're up, Margaret.
I just wanted to stress real quick that San Diego is booming. It's busy. The chatter is definitely all over every single community with elections coming up. So I've attended quite a bit of community meetings, all pretty much in District 2 and outside of District 2. And there's a lot of concerning measures coming up. And I highly recommend that everyone does their due diligence and really gets to understand each measure. The reason I'm saying this is I actually went to a voters meeting, I think it was last week up in Mission Hills, where they went through each measure and prop thoroughly and extensively. And wow, did I learn quite a bit of information with each measure and prop. So a lot of questions in regards to all that stuff. And you can find a lot of this information on YouTube and social media outlets, the presentation of these props and measures.
You just froze, Margaret.
Yeah.
You got trouble again.
Okay. All right, well, Margaret's frozen. We are going to move over to Angela as a second vice chair. Do you have any report?
I do not. Thank you, Fred.
All right. Corla, any update from the Treasury?
Yes. Please vote. And I'm really proud of this group. Everyone's going to the meetings for the most part. And we're getting the work done. There's a lot of work in Point Loma and Ocean Beach, and especially Midway. Midway impacts us heavily. We're on the point, guys. If we don't make some decisions for Midway as the Peninsula, there's a plethora of issues in that area. And I understand that we have to be supportive, but at the same time, we've got to be logical as well and be part of those decision-making process. And that means attending meetings. So I'm quite pleased with seeing some of you community members attending the Midway meetings and the OB meetings. That means a lot. And I appreciate that very much. So keep up the good work. And I'm proud to be a part of this team.
All right. Good job, Margaret. And I concur that everybody should do their democratic duty and vote. All right. Corla, how's the Treasury?
Good. We received our stipend reimbursement finally, and our balance is $1,192.81. Woohoo.
Right. We just need to have an in-person meeting so I can order pizza.
We can afford the beer for the pizza now.
Yeah. All right, Mandy, any report as secretary?
Nothing. I just appreciate everyone sending over the motion slips after the meetings, just to keep us in good order and in compliance with the city when it comes to keeping track of that. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. And I do want to give a shout out to Tina Compton. This last week, I was one of the panelists along with DK for the Measure C panel for the PLA OB Town Council Community Forum. And Tina is the co-chair of the environmental subcommittee. And so she stepped up and hosted the meeting. And so I'm really grateful for that. She did a great job. So kudos to Tina for all that she does. Thank you.
All right. Great job, Tina. Thank you. Perfect. All right. Well, with that, now we are going to turn to our guest and Council Member Jennifer Campbell. And so I'm going to introduce her. She's still here. She's coming back on the screen. So Jennifer, just want to say thank you for coming. I did get to talk to Liesl Gloria, who I see is also here on the call. I talked to her yesterday briefly. She was very, very helpful. And so I appreciated talking to her. Liesl, nice job. It's always important for us, right? I mean, we're all volunteers, but we love to talk to our elected officials, and we get them to come periodically. And so I want to thank you for taking time to come here. And we really do sincerely appreciate it because, right, you're our representative. And so we want to talk to you. So I talked to Liesl. And so really the format that I use with all the elected officials is I give you, 3-5 minutes, whatever you want to sort of give a brief introduction as to what you think are the important issues in Point Loma and District 2 and what your priorities are. Obviously there's election coming up, so what your priorities are going forward. And then after that, we'll just open it up for a little questions for a little while and hopefully get some good public discourse. So with that, Jen.
Thank you. Thank you, Fred, so much. Can you all hear me okay?
We can hear you great.
Okay, great. Thank you. I thought maybe this evening I'd talk to you about homelessness. This is the biggest issue throughout the city and in our district as well. And so I thought I would just mention some of the things that the city's been doing and that we are behind 100%. I've had a great input on this situation because as a family physician, I see this as the healthcare crisis that it is, and it also involves public health. So it's very important that we get this resolved. When I was a youngster, we did not have homelessness. We do not have to keep having homelessness. We have to work very hard to get rid of it because it is a complex issue, but we can do it. So I'd just like to say that our thoughts are with all our consultants, et cetera, on the council are that we need both short-term and long-term solutions. We need to take the old items that are not working out and put in new programs that do work and monitor them carefully to see, get data and see to it that they do work and that they are worth the investment that we're putting into them. So first of all, I want to tell you about the Boyce decision. This is a legal decision by the federal courts that have made it clear to all cities in America that we are not allowed to mandate the removal of homeless people from the public unless we can provide shelter or homes for all of them. So this really makes it tough. So what happens now is, we have approximately 8,000 homeless in the county, half of whom are in our city, maybe even a little more than half in our city. I would say closer to 2/3. The county has our money. We get only 17 cents back on every property tax dollar that we send them. They have space. They have incorporated and non-incorporated areas that they're in charge of, the non-incorporated ones. And so we have the problem, and we need them because they have the Department of Health and Human Services. We do not. We need them to help us. And I must say that in the last 2 years, they have stepped up, and probably for the first time in a long, long time, or maybe forever, the county and the city are working together in synchrony to get this problem solved. So I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the programs that are working, some of the new things we've done. First of all, you've heard of our safe parking lots, and what those are is where we take people who want to go to these lots, homeless people living in their vehicles. They are invited to go to the lots. We have 4 in the city, 3 in the city and 1 in the North County at this point. They're run by Jewish Family Service. 2 in the city are only open during the night, 6 a.m. to about 7 a.m., 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. And then the one that's across from the old Qualcomm Stadium is actually open 24 hours a day now. So what we're doing is providing these people, as soon as they come into the lot, they have a social worker assigned, and they are immediately put into our computer system. They give their history and their problem and what led to their homelessness, and we immediately begin to help them. This has been our best program in that within 6 months, 47% of the people in these lots are permanently housed. So that's a good result compared to many of the other results. So we hope to continue and make this program even better. The 24-hour-a-day one has just started. I think it'll be even better because, as you can imagine, if you were looking for a job or working to get off addiction, etc., but you were in a place that you could call your address for 24 hours a day, it's much easier to look for the job, to get your mail, to do what it is you need to do so that you can be employed and on your own again. So they're very important. The next thing that we've started is to make our shelters adequate for certain needs. Now, in the Midway section, now we've opened a harm reduction center. And you guys probably already know that since you live in Point Loma. I hope you do. It's been a great success so far. It only opened in March. And what it is an attempt to help those homeless who wish to be off an addiction, especially drugs, to have a place where they can go and stay and get medical treatment for their addiction, as well as all the other treatments needed, social work, psychological help, etc. It's been very successful. What we want to do is once they are off their addiction and deal with the other problems that perhaps helped lead to their addiction in the first place, the end result would be to get them permanently housed and on their feet. However, we don't want to lose track of them because, as many of you probably know, when you're addicted, you oftentimes slip backward. People who are addicted, alcoholics, for example, we have numbers 1 out of 10 is successful the first time. The other 9 will slip back and need help again. And so we want to follow these people who've been addicted and make sure that they stay on the wagon, and that when their crises in their life comes up, as it does in everyone's life, that they can have help coping, learn how to cope, learn how to take care of these situations. And so this is a long-term solution and a short-term solution. Both are rolled into one. So far, we have at least 10 that have graduated from the 44-bed harm reduction shelter into permanent housing. on their own, but we will continue to follow them because we don't want them to slip back into the problems that led to their homelessness in the first place. The other thing I want to mention to you is conservatorship. This is a program that I brought to the City Council that we passed early in the summer, in which the law will reach out to those who cannot help themselves at all. So what we're thinking of especially are the homeless who are so psychotic, so mentally ill, that they do not even know where they are, what time it is, what day it is, that they need to eat, that they need to bathe, etc. And so that's one of the things we're doing now. Will be a conservatorship office inside the city attorney's office. There is also one inside the county, which I hope the county will expand. They only have one person in it, and we have been sending them referrals and they do nothing. So we finally decided to look into the law and see if we could make a ruling ourselves for the city. And we have been able to do that. That was put into last summer's budget. And so it is getting up and running. So that will help tremendously. What will happen is they will go to court. The court will make a decision with a lot of help and input from experts as to whether or not this person needs to have conservatorship. Someone, if they don't have a family, will be appointed to take care of them and to take care of their needs. If they're psychotic or if they're very ill mentally and need to have inpatient care, that will be taken care of. And as they get well, you know, we have many medications nowadays that really help those who are extremely mentally ill, because we found out years ago that it's the neurotransmitters, the chemicals in the brain that become out of balance. And when they do, the person becomes very ill. And so we can help them if we find the right med that fits them as an individual and get them back on their feet, back into reality. And we can help them to move along through transitional stages of housing until they can hopefully be on their own feet again. And we'll continue to follow them just as we do those who are addicted. We'll continue to follow them lifetime so that they will not slip back into homelessness. And so that's new. And now the state just passed it and the governor just signed it for the state as well. And the county will kick in and help us too. One thing the county did within the past year that's been so successful are the mental health response teams. It's very important that when someone's in a mental health crisis, they get the help they need. In the past, always the police have been called, and the police are not trained in how to take care of mental health necessarily. And so sometimes we get really sad results from those kind of encounters. And what we'd like to do also is take that onus off the police department. We love our officers and they are well trained to fight crime. And that's what they need the time to do. So this mental health response team is made up of professionals in mental health care who can go to the home when they're called to help the mentally disturbed person and their family with whatever that particular crisis situation is and get them into more long-term care if needed. It's working very well. You know, we also have medical treatment now, not only for drug addictions, but also for alcohol addiction, as well as all the other issues, mental health issues that come along that may only require therapy or they may require some medication as well. So we're working very hard to make that a large part of our response to homelessness so that we can help people with their problems and get them so they can stand on their own 2 feet and be in their own permanent housing. And the other thing we've done is found that we need to have supportive housing for certain groups of people. At least 25% of our homeless right now in the city are elderly, 55 and older. And so what we've been doing is building buildings that are especially for the homeless elderly. Now they have to meet a lot of criteria to be allowed to sign a lease in these buildings, and they have to follow the rules. And it's been very successful. We almost never have an opening in these buildings because these people are so happy and doing so well in their little studio apartments. Many of them get well enough they can go back to work. They all have some sort of a disability pension, almost all of them, and they put that toward their rent. So it's not a free ride by any means, and they have to pitch in and help. And it's just worked out really well. We just have a new one in Claremont, the part that was District 6 that will be District 2, and it's working out very well. And so we want to have more of those that are related to the elderly. We need ones related to families And we need those for those who are disabled, also the elderly. We've done pretty well with the veterans. We have managed to house about half of them with help of the VA within the last 3 years. However, we need to get every veteran housed and in good condition and having a happy life, because they deserve that for sure. That's the least we can do for them. So we're working on that even more so than ever. And then places for youth. The youth are often preyed upon if they're put in with the regular mix of homeless. And so we have to be careful and take special care of our youth. And the last thing I'm going to mention today is prevention. If we can prevent homelessness in the first place, that's the key. We must have a social safety net that will help people so they don't become homeless. We found that many people who are elderly and on a fixed income are within $300 to $500 of losing their place of residence. And that if we can just provide them with that extra $300 to $500, they will be able to stay housed. So we have a pilot program going on right now. It was immediately filled with 300 people who needed help, and we're going to try to expand that if we can find the funds to do so. It's a 2-year program, and we'll see how it works out. But during COVID, other cities tried this for those who were in poverty, had lost their jobs due to COVID. And it actually worked very well. They found that the people never wasted the money. They spent it on food, medicine, or their housing. So I think it's going to be very worthwhile. It'll help us keep many of the elderly who would soon lose their leases to be able to stay home and to stay safe. So prevention's a big thing. You know, as a physician, I like to study things from the atoms all the way up. And if we do that with homelessness and take into account the main steps that we need to do, actually all at the same time, we can resolve this problem. And the first step is unification of all the providers, which we are now doing through a whole county computer system, so that all the providers know what's available at other providers, what programs are going on, and how they can help each other. And that's new also. We have outreach after that. So, you know, the homeless that will not go to get help, we come to them. We have social workers who come to them, and the neighbors stay there for weeks, get to know the people, weeks and months and years, and get to know the homeless and to earn their trust, so that when they say to them, would you please consider coming into shelter, or would you like to join this AA group or whatever, they will listen and respond in a positive manner. So this is also new in the last 2 years, and it is working. It is helping. It's a very long, slow process, but it's doing good. The third thing we need are buildings. We have to have buildings in which to have shelter as well as make permanent housing. And so the city is going about trying to identify every building that it owns that it could be used for homelessness, for housing the homeless. And the other thing we need are wraparound services, such that whatever it is their problem is, or several problems usually, we can help them with those problems and take care of that and teach them how to handle it themselves. The last thing, an important fifth step, is monitoring. As I mentioned at the beginning, if we don't have data, which we have not collected sometimes over the years, although I must say the San Diego Housing Commission has done a good job on that. We have to have data so we know what works, what doesn't work, and how many people we've served, how many are on their own feet, and what are they doing nowadays, and what can we do to keep them that way. So basically, that's kind of an overall quick view of what's going on right now with homelessness. And
well, I appreciate that, Jennifer. Yeah. I think that was very, very detailed. And so I think we have some few questions. So let's have some questions, and then and see what the community cares about. I think Corla was the first hand that I saw.
Yeah, thank you, Fred. I can't virtually raise my hand as host, so I sneak it in.
Well, yeah, that works.
Yeah, thank you, Doctor, for that complete report. I've seen the homeless outreach van in action down at the beach, so it works great. But my question is about street sweeping in Point Loma, where we've seen that some of the streets are not being swept. And there was just a big news article tonight somewhere in South Bay, and they're going to start giving big tickets for people that don't move so they can sweep the streets. Yeah. So I'm wondering, which, if you know which streets that is, and why would not the peninsula, especially, you know, down anywhere by the water, not be a priority due to pollution of the bay?
Yeah, it should be a priority. The priorities are listed on a website. I think they have it up. This is a new program where the city decided to expand the street sweeping, and we have to put signs up in the places where they move their cars for street sweeping day. Otherwise, they don't get moved. And people aren't aware, gee, this is street sweeping day. So now we'll put up the signs, and if they don't move, they're going to get a ticket. And that way we'll be able to get the streets swept. And Lizelle, do you have, Lizelle is our wonderful person from our staff who's with us tonight. And Lizelle, do you happen to know how we can find out exactly which streets are going to go into the new system of sweeping?
I can definitely get that and then send it over to you, Corla or Fred.
Or Fred, yeah.
Yeah, if you send it to me, I can forward it to them. And I think the concern really is, getting streets that are close to the bay.
Yes. Yes, it's really difficult. I know all our beach areas have been under tremendous pressure from homeless, from trash, from vagrancy, all sorts of problems. People throwing and littering and not caring, not enough street cans to hold litter. And
is there a timeline for those signs? Because I'll tell you one thing from my perspective. I live in Roseville, right here, blocks from the bay. Yeah. And I looked for I know when the day is, but I looked for my street sweeping schedule, and it's a nightmare. It's impossible. Like that website and all that stuff, it's really hard to find. So I think that website could be more user friendly, but what would be the timeline for the signs being posted?
We'll have to get all those details for you because it's a brand new thing that they just started.
Okay.
And just yesterday, I saw some new signs up in different parts of the city, and I was surprised they'd even gotten them that far that fast. But they really want to get this done. So it's going to involve.
Certainly like to prioritize, areas that are adjacent to waterways. That's
so they did a study. They did a study on which areas have the most trash, which have the least, and all that kind of thing. And they found that the streets that didn't have much, they really didn't need to go around sweeping all the time. And so they've switched things around a bit. And your idea is excellent, absolutely excellent. And I agree with it. And Lizelle will get on this, and she'll get you all the details. And
my very last, is Lizelle going to be with us, or is it going to be Manuel? Or
the representative for your district is right now is Manny Reyes, Emmanuel Reyes, and he's a wonderful young man. I don't think he was able to make it tonight, but he's a wonderful young man, and you'll be seeing a lot of him. Mm-hmm. And you could put the word out. We're looking for one more community rep. So if you know any person who's interested, we'd love to hear from them.
Yeah, Liesel's an upgrade. I think you're the deputy chief of staff or something like that.
Yes,
so.
She's a big shot. She's the deputy chief of staff, and there's a whole bunch of other hats too.
Yeah.
She's a committee associate and all kinds of things like that. So everyone.
We're going to move on to the next question. I'll just give you guys a hint for the city is that where there's homeless problems, there's lots of trash and you need street sweeping.
Oh, yeah, we know that. Go. Thank you, though. Yes, we appreciate that. And on the Get It Done app now, you can call in if you see a homeless encampment, or even just a few homeless camping behind bushes along one of the streets that you go by. You can put that into your Get It Done app. It'll make a pin exactly the location, and the city will get over there and work on that. All right. And we do need 1,200 new employees in our city. So if you have anyone who, has a desire to work for the city, we'd love to hire them.
Okay. All right, Margaret, I saw you next. So you're up.
I'm just going to be real quick. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I'm going to keep mine super simple. Same kind of question and concerns I had for the other candidates as well, is basically, you know, your goals seem so driven towards the city, which I personally think is a mayor's job to fulfill and focus on. District 2 is getting the shaft. We know that, and I'm sure you've heard it yourself. You've seen the complaints, you've seen the neighbors kicking and screaming. You know, what are you going to do if elected to stay in the District 2 role? And will you focus on District 2 instead of the city goals? I think that's where I'm just really saddened by the candidates, as they're focused on the homelessness, which we've had since I've been alive. You know, the density, the quality of life. I mean, we're on the point of San Diego and District 2. It's very concerning, very dangerous. Should a natural disaster happen, we don't have real proper emergency evacuations off the point. I mean, Midway's getting, I mean, industrially overbuilt with this new Measure C, which I know you support. What are the plans? I mean, where are you going to focus for us Peninsula residents, so, you know, we can trust you the second time around?
Well, I take all your points very well, and thank you for bringing them up. And as you pointed out, a lot of the problems at the beach areas, such as in the Point Loma area, it has to do with homelessness. And you're absolutely right. Well, you said, you know, it's a lot of it is, but
no, not so much in Point Loma, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm not here to argue. I just want to tell you that I have been completely focused on District 2. If you take OB, for example, I've been able to get money for the library extension and remodel, which hadn't been touched for 15 years before I got there. And I got that done. And we have collected just about enough money to get that finished. And Congressman Scott Peters is going to get us some federal aid as well. And we'll have enough money to finish that project very soon. The OB Pier, as you know, is very battered under the water. It's a mess. We've got to replace it. That's very expensive. So again, we're going to have help from our federal people, and also the woman who is the head of the Oceanography Institute, the Scripps Oceanography, is going to help us. We're going to find research projects that they want to do. They've already told me about 10 at least that they want to do off the new pier. And this will help us also with the feds to get the funds. Probably it's going to take anywhere between $80 and $100 million to get that pier rebuilt, but we want to do it. The other thing is take other parts of the community of our district, such as Claremont South Rec Center. We just got $2 million from the state for it. We got $8 million from State Senator Tony Atkins to help us with now the plans. We're ready to get the engineers in there to help make the plans for the new pier. So we've got the money to get that part done. So we're working very hard for every part of District 2. As you know, Midway probably has more homeless than any other part of our district. And we have opened 2 shelters in the last 6 months, housing 200 homeless people in the Midway area. As far as Measure C goes, it's very important because it concentrates on housing. It concentrates on housing a beautiful neighborhood, making new transportation routes so that all that traffic jam going on coming into Point Loma is gone and fixed. We need to have parks there, and we desperately need a new sports entertainment arena. And so with all of that starting on the 48 acres that the city can lease, next we have 900 more acres around it, that hopefully the people who have property in the Midway area will get the hint that they need to spread their wings, do new things, build new housing, build new neighborhoods, and let's make the Midway area a beautiful neighborhood, a nice entrance to Point Loma, and not a blight like a lot of it is today. So it's a lot of work, but we really want to bring that up, and that will be a boon for Point Loma as well. So Point Loma is a beautiful neighborhood. We've helped them with a variety of things over the years, including the new lights. And we want to make sure that it not only stays beautiful, but whatever it needs, it gets. We have a terrible problem with infrastructure in the city. It has been let go for years. We are $4 billion behind on stormwater. And we have to figure out, how are we going to do this? We just run from emergency to emergency with the water pipes breaking because they're so old and rusted. And so we are replacing them as we go, as well as fixing the ones that break in emergency. We just had down in on Moraga a big break with a hole in the street because of two mains that broke with each other. And so we've got that fixed within 3 days, but we're being very careful and very rapidly responding to these as best we can. So no, I pay attention to the entire district. We work very close with both the Western and Northern divisions of the police. All of the first responders have endorsed me. All of our first responders were in the low end of the 30 cities around us in terms of pay until I got there. And I led the council on raising the pay for all our workers, but especially our first responders. And our police, who are at the bottom, had gotten a little bit of raise before I came, and we now have them up over the median. We are aiming to get all of our people up near the top or at the top of the 30 cities around us. And we are doing that, even given the fact that we had a really reduced budget because of 2.5 years of COVID. So my eyes are on the district. I was president of the council, and so my eyes also were on the city. We all work together for each other in this city. There's 9 districts and 9 council members, and I'm only 1 vote. So if the other council members don't help us, we don't get anywhere. You may recall that we needed the scooters off the sidewalks near the water. And that couldn't be done by the old council. When I came on, I introduced that and got it passed immediately. And just this year, we have updated that law. So we are changing things as fast as we can go. Any ordinance that I pass has in it that every year it will be looked at again to fix whatever problems there are. Because as the years go by, things change. And other things come up that are new that we didn't expect. So we're going to have to work on all of that to make sure we're up to date on everything. So we love to hear from you. We're there for constituent care. If you call our office, you will get a person answering the phone who can take a message and get it to the proper person. Let them know you're from Point Loma, what your email is, your phone number, your name, your address if you'll give it, and we will help you in any way that we can. We do this every day, all day long. That's what our staff does all day long.
Okay.
So
all right. We're going to move to the next question. Mandy, you're the next one up. So Mandy, your question.
Hi, thank you for being here. Again, I was a city council candidate, and we're running up to the wire, and you're asking us for another 4 years, but you're failing to debate or take questions at times in these meetings. And so my question for you is, if you do get reelected, how are you going to maintain your presence in our community when we don't feel like you've been consistent with that in the last 4 years?
Well, I'd like to ask you, how many times have you invited me? You know, the times that we were in COVID was 2.5 years. Everything was on Zoom. I did as much on Zoom as I could. On September 1st, the League of Women Voters had a forum for this race down to 2 people. And that was held at the Claremont Town Council. And you can watch that if you'd like.
So you're telling me you've not been invited to any other debate here in our district regarding District 2?
No, I'm not telling you that. I'm telling you that an organized group called the Claremont Town Council invited the League of Women Voters, which is a very excellent nonpartisan group, to hold a fair and properly done forum. And it was done September 1st. You may look it up. It is on YouTube under League of Women Voters. And we're not allowed to take pieces out of it. So you watch the whole thing. It's about 45 minutes, and you'll get a really good idea of both candidates' answers, etc.
So how do you plan on being more present in our community if you are reelected?
Well, now that COVID's over, I'm able to get out. So I've been very, very busy, booked up day and night. I often have 12 and 15-hour days because in the evenings, a lot of the meetings are in the evenings. So I'm out there, I'm going places. This is a very big district, and now we're going to be covering Old Town as well as all of Claremont, which is the biggest neighborhood in the city. So it's, you know, it's a big job, takes lots of hours, and there are, you know, there are several in Point Loma, several organizations. Last week I went to P3, and I like to go to I'm a member of the Point Loma Association. And I know their dinner is Monday night. I signed up for it, but I've got another thing at the same time. So I don't know if I'm going to make it, but I really wish I could. So I do the best I can. However, you have to remember that COVID took 2.5 years out of our lives. You guys are still meeting on Zoom. I don't blame you at all. I think it's wise. And let's see what happens this fall. Let's hope the COVID variants don't rise up again. Let's hope that we're safe. You know, we did such a good job in our city that we are one of the safest places in America, the most vaccinated and the safest. And that is bringing us new conventions, new tourism, and that will help tremendously with our budget.
Yeah, well, I hope we remain safe here. I heard on the news on the way home with that in Europe, COVID's on the rise, and they're thinking about instituting mask mandates in France again. With that,
Europe's having problems.
Let's stay safe here. Angela, you're next. Well, I'll get to your question.
Hi, I'm not sure if you know the answer to this. I was going to ask your representative, but he's not here.
You can ask us. Lizelle and I are happy to help you.
Okay.
If we don't know the answer, we'll find it.
There are a lot of residents that live around Plumosa Park on Plumosa Drive that are concerned that those lights, those vintage lights, are going to be removed and replaced with something that, you know, they've had that for a long time. It's part of the community. And so they're concerned. They don't want to see those removed. Who would they contact to find out if those rumors are true or not?
That rumors are not true. The lights are not going to be removed. We have problems sometimes with the older lights because sometimes they're hooked together. So just like a Christmas tree lights, the old ones, if one goes out, the whole thing goes out. And that's not good. We've got to resolve that problem. We're working on it. We are 18 months behind in light repair, I need to tell you. So we have to be patient. But this administration has made it a priority. And I agree with you. It's part of the neighborhood. It's charming. It's a wonderful thing. And you have the roundabouts around the lights. So it makes it much safer. And I just think it's lovely. I always am so happy when I get to walk through Point Loma, knock on doors and talk to constituents. I love it. It's my favorite neighborhood to walk through. Point Loma is just outstanding. I love you guys.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
thank
and
you.
I think Angela, we have Manuel Reyes's email, so Corla, I can send that to you. I think Manuel.
Yeah, and Lizelle and I will get into it too.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
He's new, so we're showing him how to find out these things.
All right. Thank you.
But I think you can rest assured that's probably a silly rumor. Boy, are there lots of them.
They will be glad to hear that. Thank you.
All right. So to get through the questions, let's keep moving. Javier.
Hey, thank you, Councilmember Campbell, for being here tonight. Council just updated Council Policy 0-32, which sets policy for the Capital Improvement Program. And as you know, there's a focus on that policy for underserved communities. But there's a ton of needs here in Point Loma, and we pay a ton of property taxes. So what are you going to do to make sure that Point Loma gets their fair share with this new council policy?
Yeah, we have to be very careful to make sure that we are not causing ignorance of those of us who need help, even if we're not in what they consider one of those hard-hit areas. We got to make sure they take care of us too. And we work with our colleagues to remind them, we're helping you. You need to help us. And I think it's gonna work, and we're gonna be okay. But we have to keep on it, because you're absolutely right. We have to make darn sure that our needs get met. I can tell you that Claremont, which I only had a little bit of the western portion, now I'm going to have the whole thing. Claremont practically let go since the day it was built by the city. And so there are a lot of needs throughout our district. And whatever your needs are, I want you to send us emails, tell us what the needs are, and how long it's been going on. Give us the history of it, whatever, but be sure and give us your contact info, because we will get in touch with you and get the whole story and try to get your needs met. That's what we're there for.
Perfect.
Will you meet with us and talk about CIP priorities?
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to come back and talk about CIP? That's capital improvement projects, by the way. Mm-hmm. And the city has divided it now into huge projects for the engineering department, such as the new pier and OB, versus regular ongoing projects that the regular engineering department takes care of. So we have two engineering departments now working on capital projects. And
we just want to make sure that our capital needs stay visual and they're stay out in front.
Send us your list and we'll get on it.
All right.
It helps tremendously because, for example, this year we had to put in our budget needs at the end of September. We usually do it in January. Mm-hmm. So it was very hard to come back from summer recess and suddenly talk about the entire budget, but we had to do it. And so if we knew of certain capital projects needed, we could put them in that budget. Now we're going to do it again after New Year's. So we want to know everything you want. As soon as you can get it into us, please do, because we will put that in our budget. And this is when we have help from our fellow council members, because they have needs in their districts as well. And so if we all get it into our budgets and we have 9 council members asking for something, say in Point Loma, it's much better chance it's going to happen. So when we all
I want to try to get a couple more questions in here before we end. Don, I saw your hand up.
Council member, you have a budget for hiring staff, and yet in less than 4 years, you've had 5 District 2 reps: Miller Salzman, Josh Coyne, a woman whose name I've forgotten,
Monique,
Linus Smith, Manuel Reyes. Last month, out of frustration, because there was no district rep, I called your deputy chief of staff. That wasn't successful either.
Really?
From my perspective, there is no constituent service from District 2.
Well, I'm sorry that you're feeling about it. You've had a rough time. It's really a shame that the people that we hired, I could go through each one and tell you why they left. The first one that you mentioned got a job with Tony Atkins. She kind of stole them from us. There's not enough people to staff offices everywhere in government. And the next person, Monique, who was the third person you mentioned, she's getting married. Her husband has a great job up in LA, so she had to move to LA. Let's see, who was the second one? Was Josh Coyne. Josh was wonderful. All of them have been wonderful. Josh Coyne got a new job with the Downtown Partnership, I think, or was it the Chamber of Commerce?
Correct.
Which was it?
Correct. Downtown Partnership. He got a promotion.
Yeah, and he made twice as much money as what we could pay him. So we didn't blame him for going, and he still stays in touch and helps us. And then the other one you mentioned was Linus, who was an excellent young man who had a lot of family problems. His grandfather lived in the home with him and his mother, and his grandfather was dying. And he just had so many family things on his plate that he felt that this wasn't the time for him to have a job. So he stopped coming. Okay. So it's a shame because we missed them all. They were all fabulous. And Manny will be just as fabulous.
Okay. How about Sam? I see you have a question.
Yes. Councilmember Campbell, I appreciate your coming and I thank you for coming to spend time with us. My focus is crime, and I wonder what you're going to do about crime in the city and what kind of support you'll give our police. Because when I read things on our next door, a high percentage of all those postings concern people concerned about neighborhood activities that are nefarious of some sort. So,
yes, I agree. It's a problem. We've had a slight raise in percentage of crimes in the past year and 2. It's been made worse by COVID. We are still the safest large city in America. Did you know we're the 8th largest city in America? Yeah. And we are still the safest one. However, urban planners tell us You need 4,000 police. You think you only need 2,040, but no, you need 4,000 for the amount of population you have. And in my opinion, if we need 4,000, we need to hire 4,000. We have a large recruiting program going on now that we would like to expand. They've only been recruiting in California. We would like to see them expand it nationwide. And we would like to make sure they have all the equipment they need and whatever it is they need. And we want to get their wages way up at the top or near the top, because they are getting stolen by other jurisdictions that pay more. So we have to get this settled so that we understand we are a big city and we must do what we must do to stay safe.
All right. Well, with that, Jennifer, I think we took more time than I might have anticipated. So I sincerely appreciate you spending extra time. And I just want you to know, since you didn't feel like you had an invitation, you always have an invitation. You're our rep. And so, you know, if you get reelected, you know, and we'd love to have you come, not every month, but, periodically, you come in. And especially while we're meeting by Zoom, right, to pop in, because community's got a lot of questions and they like to feel connected to their reps. So thank you for coming.
This is why we have to have a staff and reps for each community, because we have many communities in the district, as you know. And we also have planning groups like yours that we have to go to, town councils, and then many other organizations like OBMA that we have to attend and help out. So I won't be able to come all the time. I'll come as much as possible, but I don't want to take your agenda. I have run these types of organizations before, and when an elected walks in at the last minute and I don't expect them to be the speaker, it kind of messes up the agenda. So I would never do that to a community group. If you want,
I'll just say on behalf of our group, right, we like our elected officials because they're our voice, right, and they're our representative, and we want to make sure you understand the issues that are important to us. So
absolutely,
you're always welcome, and you won't be an interruption. So.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it so much. And I just love being here and seeing you all. And I love Point Loma, and we're going to do everything we can for you. Just let us know what you need, because we don't know unless you tell us. So please help us out. And thank you so much, Fred, for having me. And I hope to see you again soon.
All right. Well, thank you, Jennifer. And Liesl, thank you for all your help. I really appreciate it.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you for coming.
Okay.
Well, there we go. All right. So do we have any other government reports? I know we have DK here to give us. We sent around your Sandag report, but do you want to give us a Sandag update? Maybe not. I don't see any.
Good. Good evening. Hey, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Yeah, are you on your phone, DK?
Yeah, I'm out and about, but that's why I wanted to make sure I sent in my report at least written.
Yeah.
But if you guys, if you got a minute, I can definitely give it verbally.
Sure, we got a minute.
There we go. Thank you. So yeah, 5 quick hits, and then I'll be done. So the first one is just this past, I think Sunday before last, we had this community fair. It was wonderful. We had about 1,000 people out at Rocco Park downtown. I was kind of just like a smorgasbord of all the things that Sandag does as an agency. Transportation, we had like this whole request for innovative concepts thing going on. A lot of background, I can send that around to you, Fred, on our website. Nice little write-up from the UT. Also this past Friday, Sandag is one of those agencies that's involved with the Otay Mesa East land port of entry. So it's like the second border crossing that's being built. The thing that makes this one interesting is there's actually a toll road that is being built as part of that project. And that's actually part of what's going to fund the project. But the tolls from that road will be jointly shared between the United States and Mexico. So in a couple of weeks, I think it's a week after this, there's a delegation from the United States actually going to Mexico City to sign a memorandum of understanding about exactly how those tolls will be split and how that revenue will be shared. That's number 2. Number 3 relates to the Central Mobility Hub. So we have this airport connection concept study that is being sort of drafted and finalized now. Should be out, we're expecting, by the end of this year. And once that's published, it'll really show the different concepts that have been evaluated with respect to how we could potentially connect mass transit to the airport. So that's number 3. Number 4, we are about getting ready to actually start the next regional plan. There's probably been a fair amount of news and fair amount of information in the news recently about the 2021 regional plan and that road usage charge. But realistically, that plan gets updated every 4 years. And so we're beginning a process to collect information and input from the public for the 2025 regional plan. That's the next big one. So I've sent a link to Corla and Fred. You guys can distribute that just to sign up for our newsletter so you can get more information about how that works. And then lastly, as you've probably seen also in the news lately, in Costa Mesa, there was an erosion event that has damaged the integrity of that low sand corridor. That's like the Los Angeles to San Luis Obispo. They forget San Diego somewhere, but that low sand corridor takes a lot of freight, takes a lot of individuals. And that, the San Diego portion of it, that is subject to that same type of erosion. We actually, as a San Diego agency, are much more organized and further ahead than our friends in Orange County. So we've secured $300 million from the state of California in order to, one, reinforce the bluffs, two, begin some of the environmental work that will ultimately begin the process of relocating those tracks from the cliffs. It's a lovely ride if you're on those train tracks, but it's also a bit treacherous because they're literally on the edge of cliffs that are currently eroding. So we got $300 million to begin an environmental review process that will help us move those tracks. And that is all. I think there's a couple additional details that are maybe in that note. Fred, if you want to send that around. That's just what I got.
Corla already sent your report around. She's very efficient.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Yeah. So that's what I got for you guys.
Thank you, DK. Appreciate it. Drive carefully, pal.
Thank you. Oh, and I'm in the back seat today, but thank you.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. The one thing I did skip over. I don't think there's any other government reports, but I did skip over non-agenda public comments. So if anybody wants to make a non-agenda public comment or comment on what we heard from Jen Campbell or whatever, you got 2 minutes. So non-agenda public comment. Go ahead, Margaret.
I just had really quickly, there is a community forum on Monday. It's open to the public. Monday, 10/24/22, 6 p.m., Point Loma Library in regards to Measure C. There's going to be pros and cons of Measure C, and it's leaders from quite a bit of different communities in San Diego. I know we've secured Mission Hills, Claremont, Point Loma, and OB. We have double the people speaking on that. We also have a couple cyclists that are going to be in attendance on the impact pros and cons of Measure C for them. It's really important to include the cyclists in all this, conversation nowadays. And then lots of people too from La Jolla, just all different neighborhoods to kind of weigh in on Measure C and also provide updates on Measure E and where that ended up in court and all those details, because no one really has that information and details as well. So it's not really a no on Measure C type of thing. It's more of an informative meeting on Monday. And I think I posted the flyer in the chat, but it's open to the public to come learn all the details on Measure E and Measure C Monday.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Margaret. The second hand I saw was Linda Lucas.
Hi, thanks. I just want to take a minute to thank you all for allowing me to attend your meeting again, and to Corla for sending me the information. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
I told you everybody's welcome every month, everyone.
That's right. Well, you missed the first hour, so that you might want to go back and watch that on YouTube.
I certainly will.
And congratulations on your UT endorsement today. So that was nice for you.
Thank you much. Super exciting.
Yeah. All right, Nicole, you're up.
Yeah, thanks, Fred, and thanks all of you. It was great to hear some updates and hear some reports from Jen Campbell. And I just wanted to make a special note that we heard about CIPs. And so she wants to hear from us. And as a group, I think we need to really get organized and have something to her. We've talked about it in the past, and maybe we just need a little ad hoc meeting in the next month and November meeting, make a list of our top 5 priorities, and get it sent to her, because I don't think we've officially made that. So
yeah, and I don't even think we need I think that's a great idea, Nicole.
Wouldn't that go under long range planning, Paul
That's
Webb?
what I think. I don't think we need an ad hoc. I think long range planning can just do
I think
it right
long
now.
range planning, because that's a long-term goal that can be revised every month. Definitely.
She mentioned changing the deadline. They had to have something September and then January, which I don't think any of us were aware of, but this should be an annual thing that some committee does, because they put it in annually and you go on the list and then hopefully you move up. And it should be an annual conversation that our board has.
I agree.
I think what happened this year with this cycle is they changed it. And so typically we tend to talk about this in the beginning of the year. And so they've moved the process a little bit. And so that's why we're kind of coming back out of season, you know, that people are typically used to. But I think that would be great for us to come and do a CIP priority type list to submit to the council member.
And if Javier, if you're not on long range planning, you should be.
I'm on there, and Matt has his hands on. I think
all right, Matt, you're the chair of long range planning, I think, right?
Yeah. So like it was just mentioned, this was kind of an early surprise
I like that one
cycle. You know, I was able to try to rush and get something prepared last month, the couple letters that y'all took up, you know, trying to put some of the CIP requests in, even though I couldn't be here last month. But now that we've seen what's in Dr. Campbell's budget request memo, or maybe you haven't seen it yet, but it's available, I'll share a link. I was going to propose that long range planning takes this up for November meeting, so we can try to have something prepared to bring before the full board in November, so that we can hit the ground running for January in that sense.
That would be great, Matt.
Excellent.
Yeah. Between you and Javier, and I don't know who else is on there, we're in good shape, but anybody else wants to volunteer?
I think I'm on.
Good job. Sam, you'd be perfect too. All right, I see Brad's hand.
I'm on it too.
Oh, you're doing it long. You have a comment too or not?
No, the comment I'm gonna make is that there has been a little bit of a disconnect, because we talk about the CIP projects, and it seems from what I've understood over the years of being on here, that those are the big picture projects. But we also have all these little projects that just kind of get dropped by the wayside every year. And there's like no institutional memory. It's like once something goes on that list and it doesn't get done, it should stay on that list. And so we don't have to, and especially because we change and our discussion and dialogue with the reps change. So everything just falls through the cracks. I mean, we put these letters out, we want these things done, and they're just forgotten. And then we also, you know, lack of money, lack of employees. I mean, I've talked to people at the city about what Jen Campbell talked about with electricians. We can't get some of these lights and crossings done because they're fixing stuff. They haven't made it to the point where they can install things new, even if it's $15,000. So anyway, that's all I have to say.
Okay. And I just want to, can I just add on to Brad's comment? Because I was at the OB Planning Board meeting earlier, and they were having this discussion about their CIP projects. And one of the things I noticed is, again, like that flashing beacon is a priority budget, and it's on the memo, it's listed, but we still don't have a flashing beacon. So I guess that's my concern. Why is even those that are listed in the actual memo that goes out to D2, those haven't even been addressed. And so there's a little, you know, concern that they get forgotten about.
I talked to Gary about that, and that's where I found out about the electricians being backed up, and there's something like 3 electricians in the whole city that can do these lights, and they're just, you know, things break, and so they just never get around to something new.
How about Javier? I see you've had your hand for a while.
Yeah, and Brad has a really good point. Generally, the larger projects have a separate CIP number and a tracking, but they do have annual traffic budget, which is a big lump sum of money, and a annual lighting budget. So those smaller projects, they may be smaller, but they're important to the community and they're important to us. And we just need to make sure that they get in the annual budget and they get tracked in their annual budget. So if we put a little CIP project together, we can put under the annual traffic control or the annual lighting. And that way it gets tracked in their annual budget that way.
Okay, Margaret?
And I want to reiterate with Brad, we started that traffic and transportation list back in the day when you were chair, and it's still thriving and alive, boy.
5 years ago, it was approved.
Oh boy, we are still on that list, and we are taking it. We're looking at it every meeting. Mandy has that thing as her Bible, and it works. The same thing needs to go with long range planning. We need a list.
Yes.
We review as a committee, bring it to the board, because we're not all going to be on this, God forbid, board. I mean, our whole lives. So we need concrete lists of our accomplishments, because I'm proud of that list, Brad, that we started many years ago, and it's still going. So let's create that list for long range planning and get these projects on there. Goals.
Right, Corla?
Yeah, quickly, for those who weren't early to the meeting, who joined on time, I made the announcement that I have a brand new grandbaby as of Friday.
Aww.
I have a little girl, and she's just precious. So just off topic, something happy and fun.
Well, you don't look like a grandma.
What's her name?
Are you kidding me?
What's her name? What's her name?
Gigi.
Oh, I like that. Gigi.
Very nice. Very nice. All right. We're going to end non-agenda public comment on a high note there. So perfect. Thank you, Corla.
And we do have the PLA dinner Monday night. I don't know who's going to scrounge up and go to that.
Do you have a table, Robert, for us?
No.
No.
Is there a free bar, Robert?
Yeah, the
Robert,
price
be our
is
sponsor, Robert.
Yeah, prices went way up.
All right.
That's 150
is
a
that
ticket.
at the Koenkai, or is that
Koenkai.
Koenkai? Okay. Perfect. All right.
We should have a planning board table.
Yep. All right. With that,
We really should.
Yeah, I'm going to move us over to our project review action items. I know that the people that have projects have been patient. Maybe they learned something about what's going on in the community over the last hour. But Joe, I'm going to turn it over to you so we can help these people out with their projects.
Great, thank you so much, Fred. So tonight we're actually going to have 3 projects rather than 4. One of the applicants hadn't obtained some of the information we requested at our last project review committee meeting. So she deferred to next month, which is fine. Yeah. So the first project that we have is at 2818 Avenida de Portugal. And it's basically a whole bunch of work with cell site antennas. Basically, it's upgrades to existing facilities and numerous modifications. It's highly complicated, but we had a good discussion about it. And the gist of it is that they're modifying the building slightly to keep the exact same look architecturally, but to accommodate these additional cell site antennas. The applicant is Genesis Alban, and I've seen her on here earlier. I hope she's still here. There she is. Genesis, could you please take over the screen and briefly walk us through some of the pictures that we discussed at the end of last week's meeting?
Sure thing. Let me try to figure out the share screen again.
I'm glad you simplified that, because when I put it on the agenda, I looked at things like three inches long.
Yeah, that was a copy paste. I didn't even try to paraphrase that.
All right.
Okay, so we're looking here at the photo sims that were submitted to the city. This is just an overview of the project, and basically here you could see looking southwest inside site premises. So you can see where we're extending the screening for the antennas so that we aren't looking at antennas and we are just looking at a building. And then this is views from on top of the rooftop and the side as well. I don't know if we added anything else. Hold on. Oh, okay. So here are some more photos. And then I'll go to the elevations page so you guys could see the difference there. This is all city stuff. And here we are. So everything is going to be enclosed in the FRP screening and behind this. So that's why there's lines here. And this is the extension to the decorative panel for the additional antenna that they are adding on. And here's the other view. There won't be an extension here. That was the only area that needed to be extended up here. And I believe last meeting we had a question about coverage. So I do have the coverage maps for you guys if you want to take a look at those.
Would we please see those? They're very interesting.
Okay, perfect.
Also, this is the Portuguese Hall, and she told us last time this is for Sprint and T-Mobile to cover Shelter Island area.
Right, yes, so you can see that here. Well, this, they messed up the the PowerPoint here, and this is actually the area without the site. This is just a T-Mobile site number, but this is the site here. Apologies, I actually messed up. This is the site now, so green is good. This is the area without the site. Obviously we're seeing a lot of yellow and red, which is not good for the people that have T-Mobile and Sprint in that area. And then this is just an overview of what the site provides to the area. So it's supposed to fill a coverage gap in the Shelter Island Drive area and Highway 209.
And Genesis, do you have that section 6409 you guys talking about the federal mandate to modify facilities? Is that a correct description of that? And is that why we're starting to see all these cell tower applications?
So yes, wireless facilities, the federal mandate is basically in place to streamline the process for, these carriers in order to get service to not only, the regular person, but also for first responders. So they basically set out guidelines for the city to follow, but also make it easier on the carriers to not have to jump through as many hoops to get their cell sites updated and upgraded with new antennas, which are always coming out more often nowadays. So yes, this project does qualify under section 6409, and it helps the carrier get this through with the city easier.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So Joe, yeah, perfect. Thank you. We're out of it. One question I didn't have, what was the vote in project review?
Yeah, Fred, the vote in project review was unanimous to approve 8-0.
Okay. And then do we have a motion and any discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve because it's already existing. So it's just modifying it.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Margaret, second by Corlett. Is there any further discussion? All right. All those in favor? All right. I think that if we have everybody, that's unanimous. So
that would be
14-0.
Great.
Perfect.
So thank you so much for appearing before us, Genesis. I will complete your Form 620 and send it in either tonight or very soon.
Awesome. Thank you all for your time. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too. Okay, carrying on. Trying to make up a little bit of time here. Stephanie Vanderveen had to postpone again. She was the other cell site for a different carrier that was at 3376 Rosecrans. So she will be coming for us next time we meet. The next applicant has a project that's very interesting. It's at 414 La Crescencia Drive. Our applicant's name is, I'm sorry. Our applicant's name is Lindsay King. And this is basically a garage for an historic house, the old, I believe, Jessup House, way up in the windy streets in the upper portion of the peninsula that overlooks the bay. We discussed, among other things, that you can't actually see this residence from any other place. It's so steep and secluded. Again, it was a project that had a good discussion, but we ultimately approved it by a vote of 8-0. So with that, Lindsay, I think I saw you on here a minute ago too. So could you please take over?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. So as Joe mentioned, I'm here presenting 414 La Crescentia. The way the site kind of falls into the neighborhood, the project, although private views aren't protected, it doesn't affect any private views. The houses are either below or above the site. So this is kind of a site plan, and then kind of showing you the proximity in the kind of wooded area of Point Loma, just west of Rosecrans. The entire site was historically designated in July. And so the owners have taken great care to make sure everything that we're currently proposing and everything that they've done fit within the U.S. standards for historic preservation. And we've worked very closely with City Historical on this project as well. And so it is in conformance with those standards. So the new garage, a 4-car garage, sits kind of along this meandering path up to the main house. The garage, including phantom floor area, is 1,940 square feet. It is a very large site. So with the proposed addition, it brings the FAR of the property to 0.196. This is some kind of 3D views of the elevation of the garage. So it's a tiered garage. So that way, kind of takes advantage of the site going uphill, and then it's built over the embankment with caissons below the site. The project really tries to kind of fit into the surroundings, so taking architectural hints from the main house, using the same materials, stucco color, roof materials. So it really tries to kind of fit in. This is the floor plan, 2 cars at the lower, 2 cars at the upper, and then there is a storage mezzanine above the lower garage. So the portion that's hatched on this lower plan, that's phantom floor area. And then there is also a portion of phantom floor area that happens below the building due to that hillside kind of falling away below this point. Proposing some solar on the roof, and then this is the existing Jessup residence, and just showing how those materials would then translate into the new project as well. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Can you, Lindsay, can you get out of the screen share so I can see people?
Oh, sure, of course. Oh, there.
Okay, so it was approved 8-0. I don't know if there's a motion that we want to make before we have discussion. Or do you want discussion first? It's up to you guys.
I'll make a motion to approve it. I mean, it seems pretty straightforward.
All right, got a motion by Brad. Do we got a second? From Paul Webb, we got a second. Okay, any discussion? Nicole?
Yeah, just a comment to the applicant, and I'm just going to mention it again because it's always important. And I see they have a huge space and yard. And when you go and do a nice structure like that, is an opportune time to put an underground tank to capture some water off that roof. So just a little bit of water, being water wise, it can actually water your entire area there. So just thanks for the comments. I'll just be.
Good comment, Nicole.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, it's time to vote. All those in favor of approving the project? And I believe that it appears to be unanimous. So congratulations, Lindsay. 14-0, your project is passed.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for your time. I appreciate it. Have a great night.
Well, thank you for doing a good project, Lindsay.
And moving right along, this is going very quickly tonight. Our last project of the evening is at 4414 Bermuda Avenue. It's a project, basically it's an amendment to a coastal development permit to demolish an existing single-family residence and detached garage and to construct a new 3,175 square foot two-story residence with a basement, a detached garage, and a second-story ADU. The applicant has been before us more than once, I think. I've had multiple conversations with him, as well as his adjacent upview neighbor. And there was quite a bit of dialogue about potential view blockage on one corner of the house. But as of this last meeting, the neighbor who was kind of opposing the project, he wasn't really opposing it. That's not a fair statement. He was basically simply stating that he wanted the applicant to try to work with him, which in some ways the applicant did do, but he dropped his concerns for the project. Furthermore, the applicant did respond to some of the committee's specific concerns over some very, very fine items, slight deviation above allowed floor area ratio, some other minor discrepancies. And so I think he's done a very nice job on this house. And I'd like to turn it over to Tom King. And I know you're on, so if you could please make a brief presentation and show the panel what your residence looks like.
Yes, thank you. Let me share my screen here. Okay, can you see this?
Yes.
Okay, so yes, this was a project. Originally, there was a CDP process in 2020 for a new ADU over the existing garage off the alleyway. When the clients were proposing to move forward with the building permit, they actually stopped and said, you know, we might as well, if we're making this effort, we might as well build our dream home. They have a family of 3 children and 2 adults living in currently a very small 1,200 square foot 3-bedroom house. So they put their program together. We decided to do a coastal CDP amendment to include a new front house as well as a new garage and ADU above. This was the first iteration of this project was submitted to the city of San Diego in January of this year. I first presented to the review committee in May, I believe it was May 12th. And at that time, even though I had received comments back from the city and nobody had called into question the FAR calculations, the review committee was sharp enough to catch that because of changing language in the code that's very confusing right now, as they're making multiple changes and still negotiating with State Coastal Commission on what they're allowed and not allowed to do within the coastal overlay zone as far as exemptions for ADUs. It was called to my attention that I was a little over 200 square feet over in the FAR. So after multiple discussions with the city planner, city project manager, we finally determined we should just go ahead and reduce the footprint. We squeezed everything down to stay within the FAR. And then I presented last week, and luckily everybody at that meeting approved this. So where we are here is, this is located near the corner of Bermuda Avenue and Santa Barbara. So it's up near the top of the hill there, looking west towards the ocean, looking down towards Sunset Cliffs. The house, this is the house right here. This is the uphill neighbor who did attend the first May meeting. His biggest objection was he really was looking at imposing a 20-foot front yard setback instead of the 15-foot that's set by the municipal code, because he currently enjoys in the single-story house that he uses as a rental property, actually. when he walks in the door, he has unobstructed view towards the ocean for about a 90-degree angle. And he was, even though we had made some accommodations to allow him continued view access by angling the front of the house as we projected out, he decided that looking over a single-story element at the front here, which he would look over this one roof line, was encroaching into his 90-degree view by about 20 degrees, and that was unacceptable to him. But then he finally, after the last meeting, once he realized that the city wouldn't impose a 20-foot front yard setback instead of 15, he's disengaged. And at this point, he's renting the house to 6 college students. So I think that, he realized that he was going to, deal with the fact that we have a single-story element encroaching into his view slightly. Even though we kept the second-story addition basically in line of where the existing house is. So this is a very steep property overall. It's 140 feet deep, traditional lot there, 50 by 140. So from this back corner near the alley down to this southwesterly corner, we have about 12 feet of slope. And currently the site is benched kind of in the center with the existing front house set in such a way that you have to step up into the backyard. So we designed this keeping in mind the idea of aging in place. So we designed it so that from the alleyway, there's only one step all the way into the house. So that you could easily accommodate that with a ramp later on if need be. There's not much we can do in the front because we have about a 6-foot drop off between the sidewalk and the front yard, and even a little more than that to the actual front door. So we have no option but to have a number of steps coming up to the front entryway. You've already listed the square footages, so I'll take you through the
just quickly through the floor plans, I think.
Yes.
Great.
So this is the main level floor plan. So this is the streetway. Here's the alley at the back. We come up a jogging set of stairs coming up at the high end of the sidewalk to limit the overall rise. And I didn't want to clutter this with ugly guardrails and handrails. So we have no more than 3 risers with an intermediate landing as you come up here, just to eliminate the need for handrails and guardrails. You arrive at this entry terrace, you come in a front door. There's a breakfast room right off of their breakfast niche, which in the client's program, they wanted this room to have the best view, which is at a southwesterly direction towards Sunset Cliffs. So this was a high priority item for them to actually capitalize on that view right off the kitchen. Open living room, dining room. We have a little pantry here that opens out to the side yard. We have a radial stair here that goes up to the 2nd level. Coming off of the alleyway, we come through a yard here. Oops, sorry. And we arrive at a mudroom / office here. The thinking is that one of the clients works from home, so they want to actually have eyes on the kids when they're in the pool, when they're in here. So there's a little makeshift office, laundry room, things like that. There is a main level bedroom, which will on day 1 be one of the kids' bedrooms, but it's set up to be a future master if they ever want to live on the main level, thinking of the aging in place issue. We have a 2-car garage here with a washer dryer in it that services the ADU that's at the upper level. So when you go upstairs, you arrive at this common room. We have a covered terrace here with the view axes towards Sunset Cliffs. We have a master bedroom, which is only a 12 by 13. It's not a very large master. We had to diminish a number of the room sizes to get under the FAR to squeeze out that 240 square feet. Master bath here. We have a laundry upstairs. We have 2 kids' bedrooms and a shared bath here. At the ADU, we come up a stair here to an entry deck that's at the same angle as the front house. We come in a door here to a small living room. I was asked to maximize the kitchen space for such a small area. So that's why this seems disproportionate, but they wanted to have a large eat-at kitchen here. And we have really 2 bedrooms. One is labeled as an office future bedroom, thinking the clients have 1 child with special needs that will probably require help assistance in the future with a living caregiver. So the thinking is this will be their room with the living caregiver staying here. And then the elevations. This is the orthographic perpendicular and angled plane elevation of the front. So because I tilted the whole house on an axis towards the view corridor to look around the house that's immediately to their west. And so the lines here, you know, this is the angled building envelope plane. They're a little skewed because this, what you see in the background is actually at a different angle. So that's why it bleeds out, but everything is confined within the building envelope plane. This is almost like a site section, but elevation on the northwest side, facing the westerly neighbor. This is an elevation from the alleyway. So this is the garage, the ADU above, the house in the background there. And then we have this elevation is facing the uphill neighbor to the east. And we have two elevations from the center courtyard or the center lawn area, one looking at the ADU and garage, and one looking at the house with the 2 bedrooms above and living room, bedroom down below. As far as a style and material palette, we vacillated on this a little bit. We started with what I think is kind of a tired style at this point, which is contemporary farmhouse. So we transitioned halfway through to go more of a transitional Cape Cod style. So the material palette will be shingle siding, potentially metal roofing, but we might do shingles there as well, and some stonework, a little bit of stucco here and there just to save some cost. But most of the stuccoed areas are out of sight, and then also white painted smooth siding. And then I've got a few renderings here. So this is looking, if you're sort of downhill from the site, up the street, across the street, looking at the house. This is looking at it from the other perspective, coming down the hill. This is a view from the alleyway. And then this is an overhead bird's eye perspective of the southeast corner. Any questions?
If we can get out of the screen
Sure.
share, then I can see the people's hands. And Joe, what was the ultimate vote at project review?
The vote was unanimous, 8-0.
Okay, I see Don's hand.
Yeah, some streets, Cape May, for example, have a view corridor, and the city likes the bulky house to be in the back instead of the front. Is this house, which is 2.5 times the footprint of the existing house and the 600 square foot ADU, does this meet the city conditions such as view corridor, setbacks, and so forth?
Yeah, there is no view corridor at this location.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a couple comments. The FAR for this project is 0.58, and that's what they're allowed. They're right at it. And then the curb cut in the front that you could see on the photo of the existing house is going to be closed in. And we thought it was a nice project.
I'll just say that I got phone calls from the adjacent neighbor, and he talked to me for a while till I finally got over to Joe. But
I talked to him about a dozen times. He's a very nice man.
And he felt bad about the thing, even though he's renting out the house. So, but he remembers being a kid and looking at that view corridor. So, but thank you, Joe, for taking him.
No problem. We think it's a very elegant floor plan.
Thank you, Robert.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I got Margaret. Okay. Any further discussion?
I just want to state that we went over the project pretty extensively. and I think unanimously, right, Corla? We really didn't have any issues, and it was well put together, the presentation. So it helped like newbies like myself understand a lot of the rebuttal and battles between the projects. So I appreciate that, Tom.
And
You're welcome.
Tom,
Thank
thanks
you
for whittling out 200 square feet.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I think that's right, Tom. I think we appreciate it when you work not only with the neighbors, but work with Joe and project review to get everything in there. So that's a big deal to us to have somebody that meets us, halfway and gets things done. So thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome. Thank you.
You can max it out, but you just can't go over.
Okay.
All right. With that, all those in favor of the project? All right. Well, congratulations, Tom. It appears you are unanimous, 14-0.
Great. Thank you.
Good luck with your house.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, project review, Joe, you did a great job there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to add that Linda Lucas is still here.
Good job, Linda.
Yay. She's getting brownie points.
Yes,
Rack
I
them
am.
up.
Racking them
Sorry,
up.
not on camera. I'm having dinner.
Linda, we don't eat on these meetings.
Well,
some of us do. Whether they put screenshot on or not, I'm grateful you got the screenshot off.
We refrain from the drinking, but
and I really appreciate the people who turn their video off when they are eating.
Yes.
That reminds me, I did want to remind everybody, I was going to say I got sidetracked with the with that new opportunity fund regarding parks, but I'm going to follow tradition, and so we're going to be dark in December. So committee chairs, right? If you got something you need done, get it on the November agenda.
That probably is not going to be the case for Joe.
Yeah.
I told him you had 12
Fred, there's like a dozen or so projects now, and every month it's the same thing. We're bottled up. We're waiting for this. We're waiting for that. So.
All right. Well, bring on what you got, and we'll do as many as you can get, and they seem to fall out. So I think we'll probably be okay.
I don't want to do any more than take us about an hour and a half to get through project review. I think that's asking enough of everyone, but I bundle them up somewhat with that timeline in mind.
Well, just a heads up too, Mark Krenzik was pretty concerned because at our last meeting, I guess we're going to have a bunch of these cell phone tower, just a heads up, guys, cell phone tower approvals come through the pipelines that we have to actually discuss and approve. So just a heads up that we might be.
Can I add to that, Margaret? Because I think that's good that we're talking about it, but I think they'll most likely be seamless as long as, for example, on OB, like the lifeguard tower that they put the 5G, and the lifeguards had an issue with it being at their workplace. And so they didn't approve it. I don't know if it stalled the project at all, but hopefully they'll be seamless.
And Mandy, we had an issue with the cell phone site on a dormitory at the NAS.
Oh,
so, that does happen. And I'm also hearing that ADUs may be taken out of coastal on the first of the year. I don't know if that's true or not, or just conjecture, or hearsay.
If that happens, we won't see any of those projects anymore. I don't think.
If that happens, they'll just get built, and that's scary.
The neighbors will just alert us of them.
Well, there are cell phone towers that are obstructive on the peninsula, so we just have to look out for those. But for the majority of them, they're pretty much all in place and just being rebuilt, right, Joe?
No, not necessarily, Margaret. There's still new ones. There's still a bunch of red spots on the map. My house is one of them.
Yeah.
Approved.
Yeah. On the Halifax roof.
Well, it was funny because Joe mentioned, you know what, we're getting all these and people are complaining, but you know what? We need cell phones.
Yeah. Every complainer calls me on their cell phone to do so.
Yeah, and I will point out that I have heard many people complaining about cell phone towers calling in on a cell phone.
Yeah.
People have no problem with holding a communication device that emits radiation up against the side of their head. But they
exactly.
That tower 4 blocks away.
All right, with that, we're going to move on. Corla, any CPC issues that we need to talk about?
Well, I was unable to attend last month, and Margaret graciously agreed to take my place, so she would have a report. I assume they were talking about the code updates, but I'll let her speak for us.
Okay.
Okay, Corla, everybody give Corla a round of applause because these meetings are boring.
That's right. That's why I don't want to go.
I mean, seriously, if anybody subs in for Corla, God bless you, because I mean, it's just like,
she's worth her weight in gold.
Oh my God, yes, she is. But no, I attended. It was just a bunch of back and forth, you know, banter, and just, I think they were discussing, all kinds of stuff, and they were making a couple motions on their biggest thing, which I found kind of strange, was, let me see here. I can tell you right now because I took notes, because there's just too much, Corla. Way too much.
Right.
Just the conversations in those meetings. They were talking about pretty much, it was the motions that they were making was for the Neighbors for Better San Diego. They had a letter that they were approving on that and gaining more support. And the CPC made an additional motion about 22 saying that we would support but want to see additional fire mitigation and response added to some other stuff here. I can put together a...
Was that about Midway, that neighborhood?
Yes, correct.
Midway, yeah.
Yeah, and then basically there were the main kind of things, or the land development code update. That took a long time.
Yeah.
And they went back and forth on that. And then they decided to create a subcommittee for that. So they approved a subcommittee because there was just so many details on that. So they basically, the majority of the meeting was on that, the land development code update, but it was just going back and forth with that.
There's a lot of real smart guys there that just do that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Did they approve the letter from Neighbors for Better San Diego, or did they take a position on that?
They did approve it.
And that was for Measure C, right? Not
correct.
Measure B. Okay.
No, it was C. Okay. And then they did, the other motion was for this land development subcommittee. So then next meeting, Corla, they'll be, hopefully they will have met and will have brought a better understanding of this whole code update process.
Thank you so much for taking that.
Yeah. I won't be doing it again. So anybody else wants to just...
I'll do it.
No, it's great. I learned a lot, but it's like a 3-hour meeting. And
well, there's a lot going on right now. It's not always 3 hours. With the land LDC, it's a big deal going on right now.
And it's funny to me because it was just like they had to go by every single line item. Point Loma, Ocean Beach, Midway. They go and ask every single representative for their
citywide. Yeah, it's citywide.
Yes. So
yeah. All right. Well,
I hope
Margaret,
to see you back next month.
For Corla, appreciate that.
Absolutely.
All right, Don, we're going to move on. Cannon Street Pocket Park, Voltaire Street Bridge. Any updates?
Yes, on the Pocket Park, Kevin Oliver has been able to shave maybe 4 months off the bidding process. Ooh. He anticipates that in December, the city will advertise for bids. So that is good news. On the Voltaire Street Bridge, whatever can go wrong does. The supervisor retired without our knowledge. They named an interim person who went on disability or whatever. The staff, of course, is working out of their homes because of the city operations building they've been moved out of. And the department is converted from paper to electronic. So anyhow, the various management types know of our project. They know that we're close to submitting and are waiting for us to do the paperwork. And Joe is doing the heavy lifting, so I'll let him fill in further.
I don't have much to report specifically, but I do want to say that Dawn has just done wonders tracking down responsible people at the upper levels of the city. It would take hours. I don't know how many times he must have, or how many calls he must have placed. But anyway, I've been ciphering through the plan check corrections. There's a couple of engineering ones that I'm going to have to try to find someone to do, since our engineer has now since changed firms and I don't know where he is. But other than that, a lot of them I think are simply non-applicable. And I'm trying to send emails to the various people at the city and just explain why they're not applicable. For example, I don't know what importance the underbridge sewer and electric is to, is to us putting a decorative railing on the bridge, that kind of thing. But we're working our way through it. It's just a series of emails. But again, my thanks to Don, because he's kept it alive single-handedly. He's kept it going.
Guys, is this fully funded already? Because I know Don was running a campaign to get funds on this project. So if it's fully funded, why can't we just proceed?
Because
it is fully funded, as any construction project is in advance. So that's not the issue. And I think, Joe, that they'll cut us some slack if we're able to submit the paperwork. Yeah, I think they realize that there's no sewer issue here with a bridge railing.
Yeah, there's no sewer issue here. There's no stormwater issue here. There's, there are none of the issues that they want to create. There are no transportation and traffic issues created by a railing. None of the things that they like to give you plan check comments for are applicable.
Remember, we're dealing with the city, remember?
Well, I would like to say that when I reached appropriate bigwig, he began the conversation with, are you Gail Severance' dad? And it went very well from there.
That's how cool you are, Don.
There you go. Good. All right. Well, great job, Don, and Joe. Thank you for all your work on that. All right. We're rounding in here. All right. So is there the first action item? I just keep on here. Is there anybody that needs to be appointed to any committees, or do we need to add any community members to any committees? Okay. I think we're good there. And then Mandy, do you want to give us an update then on our student liaison program, please?
Yes, I was not able to make Monday's meeting, and Tina did a great job hosting that. So again, thank you. We did run into a little conundrum. The student did not appear, but we did vote them into the position, and I see that they are here. I see their screen. So Mateo, if you're interested in speaking at this moment, I'd love to have you introduce yourself to the board if you would like to.
Cool. Well, honestly, I'm really grateful for you guys having chosen me, and I'm really excited about having an opinion here and learning a ton about how we make changes in the city and in the peninsula. And so far, I think like all these projects and all these problems that you guys are trying to solve are pretty interesting. And yeah, I think it's going to be a great time. So thank you.
Awesome.
Well, thank you for being in for the meeting. It's been a long one, sweetie. I'm real sorry you had to do it.
Okay.
I know it's a school night. It's a school night, Mateo. You got to go to bed. Don't
worry about it. It's okay.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for being here. I know on Monday, you're a student. We understand that. So I want to go ahead and request that we approve what was approved in the subcommittee. They did approve his application, and being that he did stay the entire meeting, he's like earned his keep for sure. So I'd like to make a motion to approve Mateo Mori as our first high school liaison for this season.
I saw Tina's hand go up first, so I'm going to give her the second on this motion.
Awesome.
All right.
If there's any discussion.
His letter is actually really wonderful. So his application.
I have to say every season, I'm so impressed with the students that have participated last year, and then just getting to know, I'm just very impressed when I get these applications. Sounds like you got your stuff together, Mateo. So thank you.
Well, I'm very happy that you started this program, Mandy. I'm very proud of it. It's something that no other planning board does. And I think we can all be very, very happy and proud that you have done that. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Corla. I appreciate that.
Yeah, Mateo, I concur with all that. And it's really important to us to have the sort of the next generation involved. So thank you. Thank you. We're happy to have you.
No problem. Thank you so much.
All right. With that, it's time to vote. All those in favor of Mateo. Look at that. You guys can't get their hands on that. All right. 14-0. You are approved, Mateo.
Awesome. The only question I do have is maybe get some direction about the vacancy that we have, being that we have done our necessary outreach. I would like to reach out, I'd like to fill the vacancy if possible. So maybe reach out to Kelly Lowry or keep promoting it. And then if we get any interest, then we can bring it up in a future meeting, for the environmental subcommittee to approve, and then bring it to the board for approval, if that's something that you would be interested in doing.
I think that would be great. I think, yeah, I mean, you got a second position, and certainly, if you can do it in November or in January, I think that would be good. If we get too far out, then we'll move on. But yeah.
And is there any concern if we've exhausted our resources and there's no interest? I'd like to reach out to our last candidates that we had in the last season, Caleb and Anna Birmingham, to see if they would maybe be interested in doing another season. Is that something that the board would support if we're not able to find a new applicant?
Yeah, I don't know if they want to do it again, but traditionally, right, I think they had a good experience. You could reach out to them and see if they know anybody who wants to do it, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to get some fresh, fresh perspectives for sure, and get that opportunity.
I would ask them, right, if they might have a friend that they know that would be good at it. So
yeah, Mateo, you got to tell your friends how awesome we are.
Yeah, now I'm actually going to try and reach out.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity. And I know that a lot of, people your age, as you apply for college, as long as this is successful, you meet the requirements, we will provide you with a letter of recommendation that you can take on with your college application process. So I think it's a great opportunity. And just to let people know what we do, the decisions that are being made. As you can tell, Mateo, we're not high schoolers. So yeah, I know. We appreciate your perspective for sure.
All right. So follow up on that, Mandy, and keep us posted if you can find somebody else.
Good.
Perfect. All right. So with that, then we're at the end here. Are there any committees that want to make any reports or give us any updates?
I do. I did not have a traffic meeting this past month because I'm still waiting on new information. I know that at last month we had talked about the diverter to go at Evergreen, or there'd be some sort of barricade that was installed there. And so we do need to do more public outreach with that. So I do want to let the board know, my grandmother passed away on Tuesday night. So I am actually going to have to fly out, and I will be out of town, but I do intend to have a November meeting so that we can clear up any pending traffic issues before the new year, because if not, we're gonna have to carry those over to January. So just again, that's why we didn't have a meeting. And then one other thing, I did talk to Matt. Can you speak on this shared letter? We had a letter that we had approved at a previous meeting regarding the West Point Loma Boulevard and Sports Arena intersection. If you're coming into our community from Midway Boulevard and heading westbound on West Point Loma Boulevard, you have to make a right turn. And there's a concrete median there, and there was some recommendation to improve that facility to incorporate and include cyclists so that there would be safer facilities. I know it's been discussed at the Midway Community Planning Board, and I'd like Matt to finish up on what came out of that conversation.
Sure. So in brief, I gave a 4 or 5 slide presentation to the Midway group yesterday, explaining kind of here's the problem, here's a proposed solution that was discussed with city engineers after there was a service request was initiated for something like a bike box or something that could be, rather cheaply installed. So far below a CIP kind of threshold. And the general consensus was that it seemed like members were supportive of it. There was some disagreement though about whether it made sense to try to prioritize this as a funding, because there's kind of greater concern about this intersection as a whole. So in short, they didn't end up bringing it to a vote because this item is already on the budget memo that Dr. Campbell's office sent in. So even without our letter, it made it to their request. Now, if it looks like it may fall off later in the budget processes, maybe we pick this back up, but I think for the moment, it's on there. They're reviewing this as not necessarily something we need to worry about now. The one thing that we did kind of leave for follow-up was that there should be some collaboration between either myself or other members of the Transportation Committee from the PCPB with a couple of the members of Midway Planning Board that would like to try to kind of flesh out a letter that could treat this intersection more holistically in terms of bicycle and pedestrian safety.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. I'm willing to bring that or help support that. So please let us know what we can do to help push that, because again, bike safety and just making sure that people can get across the street safely is very important to me. And I appreciate you, Matt, for bringing this to our board and then working with DK as well to try to get some sort of safer facility at that intersection.
Andy, what I'd like to recommend and see too, because it seems like DK has become now some sort of main person for Sandag within our district. I'd like to see him come to one of our traffic and transportation meetings and see what's on the radar and the horizon for Sandag planning on the peninsula. I've emailed, I've messaged, I want to see exactly what is being proposed with Sandag, because I know that they've recently acquired quite a bit of money for Midway. And what does that entail? Like, what are the plans for that kind of stuff? And I would love for him to attend one of your meetings to give us a peninsula portion of what those plans are and what the budgets are for our community.
I agree with you, Margaret. And I think that's something that I feel DK's done a really good job of, because he is involved like with the OB planning board. He sits in those meetings a lot of times. So I definitely see us kind of forging a better relationship with that committee to help us work on those shared intersections. But I think he should come, being his role with Sandag. The city keeps saying that they have a plan, but no one has seen it. So
no,
show me the plan.
I don't see Sandag connecting with the new developments that are coming our way. And to be realistic, guys, I'm beating these politicians up. They know who I am. We only have like 1 or 2 ways out of the point in Ocean Beach, Sunset Cliff, Rosecrans. And I mean, if we've got any kind of emergencies going on in our areas, I mean, it's really concerning. No hospitals, nothing, and no one can answer me. So maybe DK and that whole Sandag deal with better transportation goals and processes.
Let's see what happens with the election. And then if it, depending on what happens with Measure C, if it goes forward, I think we do need to have a conversation. And I think we as a planning board, we should have inputs into that because it does impact our community. So I think that's a great recommendation, Margaret. I think that's something we can definitely do here and keep his connection. He's been showing up. So I appreciate working with DK. We're on the opposite side of issues, but we can still talk to each other and find common sense solutions for our community. So
I'd like to thank Matt for his time. It took 2 meetings to get to the point that they don't want to take any action. So thank you, Matt, to that process.
Oh,
All right, great job, Matt.
Okay.
Just for the record, so everybody might remember that we tentatively approved a letter related to that intersection at the last meeting, but it was subject to approval by Midway. So I did not send that letter out because it has not been approved and it still hasn't been approved. So I'm not sending that letter until it's approved by Midway, and so or we get a new action item. Any other questions?
Just make
committee?
one comment. One, I want to just, again, thank you for having our council member show up. I was encouraged that she did take questions. I have to give her kudos for that. She has been refusing, but again, I don't, in my opinion, I do not agree with her excuses that the deficit or the ability for her to appear was due to COVID. She's sure been making appearances when it has to do with taking shots or being seen in her doctor's coat. And so I just, again, I don't like that she keeps deferring back to us for the reason why she can't be connected to our community. And so that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, well, Paul?
Yeah, I do have a brief airport update, if this is the time for it.
This is the time.
I received, since our last meeting, the quarterly report that the airport gives to the state under Title 21 of the state code of regulations, which has to do with airport noise. And the interesting thing about it is that the state, as opposed to the federal government, actually looks at and records single event noise, which is to say the airplane that just flew overhead and bothered you. I will post that a link to that report here. It's really interesting. It pretty much boils down to mostly one or two airlines and one or two airplanes. One being the Airbus A330 that Hawaiian Airlines flies to Honolulu, and the other being an Airbus A330 that Lufthansa flies to Munich. Although I understand that's changing out for a different airplane, so we may see some improvements there. But I'm going to post that in the chat for anybody that wants to take a look at it. It makes for really boring, but kind of illuminating, interesting insights into some of the problems, and also, more importantly, some of the difference between the state of California and how it reviews noise issues, and the federal government and how it reviews noise issues.
Paul, are those older stage airplanes that are noisier than that Airbus?
Yeah, well, it's mostly the Airbus A330s. We no longer really have the Boeing 747 serving London anymore, so they're less of an issue. But the Boeing 777 still gets a certain amount of reports for noise, because it's actually a fairly quiet airplane, but if it leaves late at night, it gets a hit on the noise level because of the adjustment for late night departures. And I will post the report, as I said, in the chat for anybody who wants to take a look at it.
Can you also email us, please?
Oh, sure, I can.
Because that way I can share it with neighbors.
Yeah, it's also available on, the link is to the airport's website.
Thanks, Paul.
Which all right, well, that'd be great. Yeah. Send an email around to everybody, Paul. I think that way people can
I will do so.
Perfect. Any other committees that want to make a report? All right. Anything else that anybody wants to discuss?
Vote.
Vote. Okay, good. All right. Well, with that, it was a great meeting. Great meeting. Good participation by everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Stay safe, and I will see you in November.